Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Monique and I'm on a journey to get better at art. Today I will be doing an acrylic painting. My daughter really likes the Demon Hunters and she also likes Sonic. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to gather all my materials, which is a sketch that I did on my iPad, and then I had it printed out on 11 by 8.5-inch paper. Since I don't have actual tracing paper, I printed it on regular printer paper, and I'm gonna cut off the edges. When I was lining up the papers, I realized that the images weren't 100% straight. Instead of just sketching out what the image shows, because if I do that, the image isn't going to look right, I'm going to leave a space in between the four images, so right in half. You'll notice that Mira's hair doesn't line up and neither does Zoey's or Sonic's hand. So I'm going to make sure that I separate the groups of paper so that it matches correctly. Once I figure out how to get the paper on correctly, I am going to flip the paper over. This is the easiest way that I found to transfer your sketches over. Since I don't have transfer paper, I'm just going to use some charcoal and I'm going to shade the back of my paper. Once that's all done, I grab my canvas, lay it down, and I'm going to get ready to tape my paper onto my canvas. I'm going to line it up the best that I can so that my sketch looks as accurate as possible, and I don't want to get confused when I'm sketching, so I need my transfer to work properly. I'm just using the washi tape or painter's tape, whatever you want to call it, and I'm taping that to my canvas. If you have transfer paper, at least what I've seen in videos, it does make the process a whole lot easier because you just lay your sketch on top of that transfer paper and then you get to transfer your sketch pretty quickly. So once my paper is taped onto my canvas, I'm going to take my ballpoint pen, and I decided to use a color like red just so that I could see where I was sketching. I'm going to go all the way around my sketch, and I finished this first section, so I'm just going to check to make sure that it looks accurate to my sketch, which it does. So I'm going to move on and finish the rest of my transfer. Once that's finished, I pull off my paper carefully because it is a mess underneath with all of that charcoal. So I did do a little bit of erasing because I noticed if I just paint right over the charcoal, it kind of spreads or mixes with my paint, and that's not really what I'm looking for. And then I'm gonna get my light blue and white. I chose those colors because it's going to be the background for the painting. I think these colors will be complementary to the painting, but also my oldest likes blue, so I wanted to make sure that blue was tied in somehow, some way, some form. My paint's all mixed up, and I'm just going to get started on painting the background. I wanted to paint the background first in this painting just because I want to make sure that, one, I have enough paint, because I was using paint that I didn't have a lot of. So I wanted to make sure that I got the background all filled in. And as you can see, I had plenty of paint left over. Once the background was done, I started to paint in tails. This painting actually took me a lot longer than I wanted it to, and that's just because I had so many other projects that I was working on. You'll see me like sitting on the floor, which is what I'm doing right now, and I'm painting in Tails, Sonic, and Knuckles. Those three are the ones that I got done first, just because they're at the top I'm right-handed, so I started with Tails first, I moved to Knuckles, and then I went to Sonic. But I also jumped around a lot when creating this painting, and it's mainly because I'm trying to wait for the paint to dry. I try to wait for the paint to dry, and sometimes I didn't wait for the paint to dry and the colors would just mix together, which isn't always what I was looking for. But if I was trying to blend, then I would try to mix my paint up and then move it to the canvas, so then that way my colors would blend a little bit more seamlessly, kind of like with Tails' tail. I just made sure that I mixed wet on wet so that the blending process was easier. I've noticed that's the best way really for me to do it with acrylic paint. I'm not super familiar with painting in general physically, especially with acrylic paint. So usually I work with gouache, but they are very similar. The drying time is a little bit different just because with gouache, it dries as quick as acrylic does, but if you mess up, then you can reactivate the gouache. If the acrylic is dry, then there's no going back. You just either have to mix that color again or try to work a little bit faster the next time you lay a color down. With this painting also, I had quite a bit of trouble with the girls' skin tone. Like right now, this is the skin tone that I was going for, but later on, which I didn't end up getting any footage of just because I was having such a hard time with their skin tone. It was either too dark, too red, or just too out of whack, like it didn't look like the girls at all. You'll see me like do their hair a little bit and their eyebrows, but then after that, it kind of cuts to the finished product. So I do apologize for that. But I was really struggling with their skin tone and being able to get that exact same color that I worked with the first time. So I had to repaint their entire face like 3 or 4 times. But I think in the end, their faces do look a whole lot better and it works out. In the end, my daughter loves the picture. She thinks I did an awesome job. And there are some parts that I wish I could have improved on, like their noses or kind of the texture of their hair. I do like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles though. I think those three turned out super, super well. I'm happy about that. I used acrylic paint, but I also used those acrylic markers that I got for my birthday. I'll link the video up top. And those are just by Okuhu. I use those for some of the finer details, like with their eyebrows or getting a more white base for their eyes. So for all the characters, I did that. And then I also added that white dot to their eyes just to add a little bit of shine, or like the smaller spaces that I couldn't really get with my brushes, or I could get with my brushes, but I was a little bit too nervous, so I used the paint pens. But I also tried not to use the paint pens as much because the finish on them is a little bit different compared to the acrylic paint. I feel like the paint pens are a little bit more matte, and some of the paint that I was using was more shiny, which is totally fine, but when I'm looking at the painting, I can kind of see that glare on the canvas. I really enjoyed this entire process. I have painted a larger painting before for my youngest, and that one also had 6 characters. There was only one person, it was Moana, and I had a heck of a time with her too. So I'm happy that my oldest likes this painting. I think it turned out really well. I don't really have any complaints, and I'm happy that I was able to do this for her. And it gave me the practice to actually paint physically. That's kind of one of the things that I would like to work on this year, is to do more physical paintings. And yeah, so this is kind of just a jump start into what I want to do for 2026. I hope you guys enjoy this video as much as I did. If you would like to see more like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.